So this odyssey about the hate speech laws continues to roll on pretty quickly. So it wasn't less than a week, about a week, since there was the rollback on the hate speech aspect of this bill that was being brought in, right? And then you had Helen McEntee quickly come out and say that while some of the parts of it were removed, it wasn't that she was walking away from it. And now you have Micheál Martin speak. Again, this is the Irish Independent. I'm just reading through some of the headlines and articles and this, it's just a big comedy sketch at this stage, you know. We're all being laughed at. Up until the point where you decide, you know what, no more. But this is the heading anyway. So as you can read, hate speech decision, not a complete U-turn, and laws could be introduced by the next government, Micheál Martin says. So they're telling you that they're terrified of the response to this stuff from the Irish people and the reaction from the Irish people and the potential reaction if they are to implement this thing. So just prior to an election, do you know what? We'll pull back, but we'll definitely run it through once the next government is there, right? Could be introduced by the next government. So he's no idea who the next government is going to be, or maybe he does, right? But either way, he's saying it could be, which is a dead sort that should these people be voted in again, they would plough on ahead, unstoppably so, right? At least in terms of a threat being posed to them by being voted out, right? So we'll have a little read. Again, I'm not subscribed to this, so I can't read the whole thing. But there's no need to. So Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said the coalition decision to ditch hate speech legislation could be reviewed by the next government and called for a new Garda approach to how threats against politicians are investigated. I would like to know what he means by a new Garda approach, and what are the failings of the current Garda approaches to investigating threats made against politicians. Again, like, you look at these people and they're so insulated that I don't even believe they think about people. They recognize people as the same sort of life-based form or organism that they are. I don't believe they see it that way. They speak about themselves and in amongst themselves and to themselves. There is absolutely, at least on based on their actions and how they speak, there is very little consideration for people. And we need to grasp that. People need to grasp that. These people are, for all intents and purposes, they are not like regular human beings. They don't consider themselves, they seriously don't consider themselves as the same as us, right? And you can see it in how they speak. So instead of him coming out saying, look, we take threats against other people very seriously, and we would like to bolster any sort of Garda powers or any sort of Garda investigation capacities in dealing with threats or in investigating threats against any person. It's just about politicians, right? So you have that Irish fella, I think, I forget his name, he was on the WHO, and he was talking during the pandemic thing of potentially coming into your house and splitting children up from their families, right? Is that not a massive threat? Do you know what I mean? Is that not a massive threat? And there's no talk about that. Do you know, that just kind of goes, well, look, perfectly justified given the current context of where we're living, right? All this nonsense. So we continue. Oh, speaking to the Irish Independent in New York last week when he attended the United Nations General Assembly, Mr. Martin described the decision by Justice Minister Helen McEntee to drop hate speech laws as a, quote, compromise to government backbenchers who were critical of the legislation. And again, listen to what these people are talking about, or how they speak, right? It's not a case of, you know what, like, look, after public consultation or after seeing the pushback from people, Irish people, around this hate speech stuff, we realise that the desire we have to bring this in and implement this is not in line with the desire of the Irish people to have the same sort of laws being brought in. Again, he's just speaking of it being a purely political thing. So it's a compromise to backbenchers. So that's why it's not a compromise to the Irish people, it's to her colleagues. I would wonder how many of these backbenchers will just automatically fall off the face of the earth in the next few months as well, right? For daring to stand up and show any level of dissent or disagreement even, right? So you can see where this is going. You don't need me to tell you. These people will plough straight ahead because they want to control what you say, which means they want to control how you think about things, which means they want to control how you perceive the world. They don't want you to have your own unique, individual, nuanced experience of existence on this planet, on this earth. They want to dictate all of that to you. They want to control your mind, and that's what it's all about. And they've done an amazing job. Yeah, I have to respect the program they've implemented and changed and shifted over the last few decades, if not over the last 100 years, because they have absolutely done a number on Irish people. They have lulled us into such a stupor that we have granted them total responsibility over almost every decision that is any meaningful decision, at least in life, over us. We have given them those reins. And by our silence and by our consent is a result of our silence, right? They're synonymous. So if you don't object to something, it means you're just tacitly approving of it, you're accepting of it. And we have given over the control of our perception to these people. And that's been starting, their handle on the reins of this has been loosened, right? Their dominance over the Irish mind, collectively and individually, has been waning over the last few years. And they are struggling really, really hard to maintain that. And you can see in these desperate acts, like this sort of stuff would have just came in and passed if it was a decade ago. They didn't need this a decade ago. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they didn't need to bring this in a decade ago because people were just going along with whatever flow that they were directing us to, right? But now it's the fact that people are catching on to what's going on in this country and they're starting to look around and pay attention and go, you know what? This is not really what I want in my life. I want something different. And these people are refusing to listen to that. So they need to go. So now these people need to bring in these hate speech laws to shut you up and to stop you thinking the way you're thinking. Is craziness, right? But look, the writing's on the wall and they're being explicit about it. So it's perfectly legitimate to say now, if you vote for these people or any of these parties, then this is what you're voting for. You're voting to give them the power to dictate how you think and what your views on things are. And you have no one to blame, only yourself for that, right? This is not just some fella saying this. This is in the Irish Independent. Like they're telling you, this is what we're going to do. We're going to control how you think, what you say, and how you experience life. If you vote us in, of course. But we'll wait to see if you vote us in first. We won't rock the boat too much prior to that. It's a big game, and it's been unravelled and displayed for everyone who has eyes to see and ears to hear, right? So wake up and accept reality as it is being shown to you. Don't deny it. Don't try and explain it away.